From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, and just after this I'm off to the annual awards of the Cricket Media Club. Used to be the Cricket Writers Club, had a name change to reflect the wider media that the club serves, and I'm fully expecting the conversations to be dominated by the ongoing Women's World Cup and of course the upcoming Men's Ashes as well.
Hi, I'm Matt Clinch for the ABC, where we've just got the second of the one-day internationals between Australia and India taking place from the city of Churches. And for the first time in his career, Virat Kohli has scored back-to-back ducks. We're, of course, celebrating the fact that Australia are dominating through the Women's World Cup, and Annabelle Sutherland was able to join the growing list of Australian run makers last night to get Australia all building towards the business end of the tournament.
Hello, Matt. Good to see you. Sorry, I've been out of circulation for a while. This is Charu Sharma for Akashvani. I'm back home in Bangalore, thankfully, and I didn't need that reminder, Matt, about the Kohli double duck. But everything going very well for Australia, not so well for India right now. Torrid time in Australia, and of course, the women just can't seem to shut out the matches they should be winning. Maybe a period of introspection, we'll see.
Yeah, more on all of that in a bit. Charu, good to have you back. And Clinchy, welcome to Stumped. Great to have you with us for this week. Now, coming up on the show, India international Saima Thakor will tell us how getting off a bus at the wrong stop set her on the road to a career in cricket. But first of all, is cricket facing its ultimate test? Well, that's the warning from a report called Hit for Six, The Danger Zone, which warns that players at all levels of the game across the globe are being placed at increasing risk through playing in extreme conditions. Now, the report was commissioned by 4 not-for-profit organisations. They are Frontrunners, the British Association for Sustainability in Sport, Climate Central and The Next Test. And the report highlights the increased strain on players' bodies due to rising temperatures. It says that in 2024, India recorded 52 days where the temperatures were at or above 37 degrees Celsius. Now, that's the threshold beyond which outdoor activity becomes unsafe. On top of that, the number of hazardous heat days has jumped significantly across multiple Indian cities. That's where the temperature is hotter than 90% of those observed in a local area. Well, I've been speaking to England batter Maia Bouchier, who contributed to the report, and I started by asking her what it feels like to play in extreme heat conditions.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think obviously we prepare as much as we can on a fitness level and mental level as well. But when it comes to extreme heat and the exhaustion that you can have out there in the middle, it does impact you physiologically as well as mentally. So I think that's something we have to kind of push a little bit more, the awareness around that. So yeah, I've definitely had the impact of that, especially in India. It's terrible, really.
What does it physically feel like? And is one facet of the game sort of more greatly affected than the other? Like, is batting in those kind of conditions harder, or is fielding harder when you're just out there for a full 50 overs?
Yeah, physically it takes a toll on everything, really. Your lungs, your legs, being able to concentrate for a long period of time. I think that's the biggest one. You've seen in this World Cup so far, everyone, they look physically exhausted, and being able to do that for 50 overs, 3 hours, or to be able to bat for 3 hours is incredibly hard. And the toughness you have to be able to go out and to perform at that level, especially on the international stage, is incredibly difficult. But you have the professionalism in the sport, which helps physically prepare you for that. And I think, yeah, for me, when I was in India, when we played Scotland, that was the hardest game I've ever played in heat, because I came off the pitch and I couldn't breathe. I had to take 5 minutes just to sit down.
Really?
And I think even Danny White-Hodge next to me was just saying, this is the hottest I've played in. And she's played for nearly 20 years now. So yeah, that was a real surprise, but also, it made me feel like I really accomplished something as well, because that was the feat that you had to be able to concentrate for that long. And I think, yeah, you can make mistakes easily in that heat.
Well, yeah, but is it to a level, though, where it is actually posing a real danger to cricketers? Is that one of the things the report is highlighting?
Yeah, definitely. it's actually powerful in that way, because it tells you that it's impacting cricketers on a real, a high level, in terms of your body is shutting down. Your body is reacting to this heat, and the clothing you're wearing, the helmets, the pads, all the equipment is having an effect on that as well. It's making it so much more difficult. That's something that has been highlighted so well, is the stats around that, which is mind-blowing, really, to me.
So the report is highlighting the fact that temperatures are going up, and going up to dangerous physiological and mental even levels. What can be done about it? I guess that's the crux. And how worried are you for the future if this trend keeps continuing?
Yeah, I think it is worrying to know how much the global temperature is rising. There are things in place that, well, I guess a lot of the boards have come together, and the report is giving you a summary of what those things are, from a political view, but also an environmental view. I think what's important to know is that that's got to come from the players and the players' voices. But yeah, I think overall, I think we need to be speaking more about what has to happen, and the report is helping to make people aware of that.
So what do you think, or what would you like players to be using their voice for? What should they be asking for?
Well, I think that it's important we talk to our governing bodies and talk about what we could do moving forward. There's definitely a lot of conversation around those heat policies, which is really, really positive. I do think in those countries where, it's really humid, but there's also a lot of pollution, that's something to think about. I think Joe Root came off because he became ill out in the middle, which is, I think, was a couple of years ago. I think that's the kind of stuff we need to talk about, and see if we can, I guess, review the temperatures and the pollution in the area, come up with a plan in terms of, if it gets to that point, what's the next step. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I've been thinking about, and definitely the policies that are the most important, to see if we can get them in place early, because there is a lot of cricket throughout the year, and the men and the women travel all year round. So yeah, if we can try and get those in as early as possible, which hopefully we will, yeah, it will be a positive step.
Well, that's England batter Maia Bouchier. Darren Ganga writes the foreword to the report, so there's lots of contributions from players who are experiencing it, and I think you have to pay attention to what they are feeling out in the middle. Matt, are there contingencies for cricketers in Australia? I mean, I've worked on the Australian Open tennis, where there is actually an extreme heat policy, isn't there, where play is stopped, but I can't recall Cricket Australia, certainly in test matches, ever having an actual measure like that.
No, Cricket Australia have a policy where it's a heat stress risk index, which is quite similar to what they have in tennis. But what they do is introduce the extra drink breaks, provide shorter sessions, but we haven't had as many examples of it in recent years. The 2017, 2018 Ashes back in Sydney, where temperatures got over the 42 degrees. But largely cricket has been lucky in its scheduling. The hottest months in January are normally January and February, and our traditional test schedule sort of starts normally mid-November, late November, and runs through to the middle of January. So those 2 to 3 weeks where the Australian Open has the heat of the Australian summer, normally our test schedule has almost come to an end. So we're playing shorter T20 or one-day international sort of formats. Interestingly, the Australian captain here, Pat Cummins, has really lobbied the Prime Minister around this. So he's asked for $100 million to help the clubs try and initiate some of these precautions around their traditional clubs. And this was something he came up with back in the COVID break, where they had a Cricket for Climate, where a lot of the professional players like Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood, Moses Enriques, Rachel Haynes, Alyssa Healy, and Nathan Lyon actually funded the solar panels for the junior and grade cricket clubs to try and reduce the carbon emissions. But also this was off the back of Pat Cummins addressing a summit where he spoke about losing up to 6 kilos of body weight throughout a day's test cricket, but also feeling like in some of those periods where he wasn't able to breathe. So he's very aware, and probably one of the pioneers when it comes to these issues in Australia, to really try and put it on the front foot, and certainly have that dialogue with the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, very much so. And it's one thing talking about professional cricket being played in those temperatures, and the calendar is organised around certain months even, but what about recreational cricketers in Charu, for club cricketers playing in the heat? I mean, they don't have sort of, physiologists and, physios to help with recovery and hydration and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it can get pretty rough for them. But if I might suggest on their behalf that they largely play short format cricket. And of course, as much as possible, not in the middle of the day. So they do try and take care of themselves. But there's no way that they're blessed with all the tools that are available for those who play at the highest level. But it is largely recreational. People know what's going on. They can take all the breaks they want. They can say, you're going to take a 15-minute break now. So there's no real rule around that. But in fact, in Delhi, I remember a tournament called literally the hot weather tournament, which was the first-class tournament. So they knew what they were getting into. In Mumbai, there's a tournament that goes through the rain, and they know what they're going in for because the pitch is like kind of, a mess. So there are all these fun tournaments going on. Some of them are pretty serious, and I'm sure they take sufficient precaution. But it's also, as I mentioned earlier, a question of just being used to local climate. And I think a lot of people in certain parts of India are just used to it. And a couple more points. I'm no climate scientist, but I think, from my own experience as well, humidity is a much bigger killer in terms of, performance because you feel really drained. And when it's hot and humid, like say Chennai, is a really tough one because as you very famously remember, there are three kinds of weather in Chennai: hot, hotter, hottest. But it can get pretty rough there. And also, there are different kinds of heat. For instance, in Australia, I think the heat is far more direct. The ultraviolet rays break through because the pollution is not much. So it really strikes you.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Next on Stumped, we are continuing our magical mystery tour of speaking to leading figures of the women's game in Mumbai. This week, we'll be hearing from Saima Thakor, who plays for UP Warriors in the WPL, made her debut for the Indian national team late last year. So how did getting off the bus at the wrong stop help catapult her into an international cricket career?
I ended up in cricket accidentally. I used to love football, and there were two trials at the same day. My football trials and my cricket trials, but somehow I got down at that stop and I went for the cricket trials.
Oh, you got off at the wrong stop?
Yeah, a wrong stop, but it took me at the right track, I would say. And somehow that journey started with cricket, and now I'm here.
What was it about cricket then that made you go back after these trials if you loved football so much?
Honestly, I started cricket just for fun, and it just initially I was just having fun. That's all I was doing. But then I got selected for under-19 probables, and I started having more fun. And then we didn't know honestly that a women's cricket team existed. But then later on, when we I started taking cricket very seriously, and then later on it just started like with an accident.
Sounds like it's been quite an incredible journey, maybe a fast journey. Were there any stumbling blocks or challenges along the way?
My father, he didn't support me as much in that. He used to tell me that get a job and you can help me in financially and everything. And I said just give me a year and I'll figure out something. And that year I worked so hard and I made it to the Mumbai senior team, and that's how things went right.
So how does it work in India when you make the Mumbai team? Are there player payments you receive at that level? How do you fund yourself at that point of your career?
Initially we didn't have that much payment, but playing for Mumbai was a pride in itself, and it just, we used to love cricket, and that's all we did. And now after we were the runner-up in the World Cup, and then initially we got match fee increased, and we started getting good DA amount, and so that's how we got a little push. And Mumbai has done an amazing job for us after that.
So even after that 2017 World Cup, when India made the final, the likes of a women's Premier League was not even in anybody's mind then. Can you quite believe where the game is at right now?
It is on another level, I would say. There's this kind of belief in the team that this is going to be our year. So yes, getting close, getting that little push is all we need, and we'll make it this year.
And so what difference has the WPL made for you personally in terms of the focus you can put on your cricket, the financial reward that brings?
Getting a lot of interaction with the international players who has already done for their lot of things for their country, and that conversation hits really different on you as a player, as it really boosts up your confidence. So for me personally, it really boosts up my confidence. Even to go and speak to an international player is something that needs a lot of courage. You get a fear of judgment, you get a fear of a lot of things. But then at the end of the day, you realize they are humans, and they've been in your shoe before. So the advice that you get from them, or the conversation that you have, it's just calming, and you figure out a lot of things just by talking to them.
So who's helped you out in particular, would you say?
I would say Alisa Healy and Tahilia Magrat is a really wonderful person to speak. And we have our international coach as well, who was with England, John. Yeah. And he had been being very calm, and he had been really quiet, and he had only spoken to us when we needed the most. So that is one of the things that we just get freedom to do what we know the best.
Yeah, it's John Lewis, isn't it? He was with England. Elisa Healy is quite a character, isn't she?
She's. I cannot comment anything on that, but yeah.
That says everything.
No. But she's an amazing captain. She thinks one step ahead of everybody. So I really like her captaincy, and the way she thinks, and the way she moves the game, and the way she controls the game. So that's a lot of things to learn right there in just one game. It's like learning a lot of things about cricket in just one game.
Well, that was India international and Mumbai cricketer Saima Thakor speaking to me when I was in Mumbai at the start of the Women's World Cup. That's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped for Akashvani. Don't forget you can follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sport, and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube as well. Go to the BBC World Service on YouTube. Thanks to Charu Sharma, Matt Clinch, and to all of you for listening. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani.